Okay, so a lot of people ask, how on earth did I get into helping students with dyslexia? And it's a bit of an unusual path. So I'm not a teacher, I am not an educational psychologist, and so some of you might immediately just turn off and go, well, what does she know? What I am is actually an NLP master coach and trainer. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And the beauty of NLP is that one of the core principles is understanding that every single thing that we do in life, there is a strategy that we are using to get there. That involves external elements and internal elements, put my teeth back in, inside our minds that will essentially take us from one state to another state, from one place to another place. Okay, so there's this interplay between the external internal world, and once we understand this, we can see that every single thing that every single person is doing, even if they're not doing it very well, is a strategy. If you can unravel the strategy, if you can become aware of it, and that's by using metacognition, then you can actually identify where people are going wrong and what they need to do instead. So in 2005, I started working with a local secondary school where I lived in Ireland. And the very first student that I actually had was about to leave school. So he was going to leave because he was suspended 3 times. The mother had had enough, the school had enough, he'd had enough. And what was interesting was that a group called the School Completion Programme, who I ended up working with as part of an external consultant, they had been working with him since he was 12. At this stage, he was 18 and he was just finishing off his last year at school. So they had thrown every single resource at him to be able to try and keep him at school as long as possible. And he was literally at the final hurdle. He was only a few months away, excuse me, from the final exams. And when I met the coordinator, he just said, okay, this is really different. Let's just give this a go. So I saw him about 3 times, okay? And it was only about half an hour, 40 minutes each session. And in the 3rd session, something really amazing happened. In the 3rd session, he said to me, I'm stupid. No, I'm stupid. He said he was stupid. And I had a massive light bulb moment. In that moment, I realized that that belief meant that it was much more uncomfortable for him to be sitting in class feeling stupid than for him to be sent to the principal's office. He was quite happy with that. He knew that it would get him out of class. He knew that if he acted the clown, etc., if he messed around, that he would be sent out of the class. And what transpired was that he would do that when he started to struggle to actually understand something in class. And he would struggle because he believed he was stupid. It wasn't that he was stupid. So I immediately then did an NLP technique. It's called a belief change, map across belief change. Anyone who's an NLP practitioner will know what that means. I won't go into the ins and outs of it, but essentially it's a way of replacing a file inside the brain. So we kind of uninstall one, we take it out and we put it in the past, and we install a new one that's much more empowering. So he developed a new belief and we installed that, and the new belief was, I can do anything I put my mind to. So as a result of that belief change, he immediately made the decision. He did, not me. He made the decision to stay at school and to finish his exams. I had to do one more quick session with him where as the exams got closer, he started to get really anxious. So I had to then look at all the whole anxiety, test anxiety, etc., which I do every single day when I'm working with clients. Reducing stress and anxiety is it's the cornerstone of everything that we do as practitioners, because otherwise nothing's going to work, because the brain can't learn when you're anxious. It's in fight or flight mode. So the result was he took his final exams and he did actually surprisingly really well. And I remember his mum saying to me, oh, do you know what he said to me? Imagine what I could have achieved if I'd started working earlier. And she just said, don't go there. However, he actually ended up coming to do an NLP practitioner course with me. And he's now in his 30s, he's got 3 children, he's married. This is a long time ago. But that was my starting point in terms of working with students. I then went on to work with that school and students at that school for the next 6 years. And what was interesting was that although I started off with the final year students, I realized as time went very quickly actually that they had already had really bad habits, learning habits. They had a lot of information that was missing. And for me to try and get them to that point where they were going to do really well in their exams, as well as they could have done, was going to be a bit of a challenge. Not impossible, but much more challenging than if I had them earlier. So the following year I had 5th year students and 6th year students. And then the same thing happened. I realized that still wasn't early enough. So I ended up then with the year before and a bit of a pattern emerged over the 6 years, which is I got younger and younger students who I was helping with behavior issues, I was helping with test anxiety, I was helping with confidence issues, things like that. And I turned a whole year around, actually. The final year that I was there, the sixth year, which is in Ireland, it's the final year, they actually were heading for complete disasters. And actually when the exams took place and we got the results, there were no disasters and there was a few amazing surprises. I do believe that if you ask the right question, then you'll get the right answer. My question with these children was, what is it that I don't understand that's happening inside their minds, that if I understood that, I could actually help them? And it transpired that the majority of those students had dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, dysgraphia, ADHD, ADD, ODD, which I had never heard of until then. So that's oppositional defiance disorder. And I was thinking, yeah, I know a few people like that who are adults. And I'd never really come across, I had vaguely had an understanding of what dyslexia was, but like most people, I just assumed it was reversing letters and not being able to read. And I will admit, this is 2010, so this is a long time ago. I actually thought that it was a reflection of that person's intelligence. So when I met these students and I saw that they were not lacking in intelligence, they were not stupid in any way, shape or form, but they didn't seem to be able to grasp the basics, I was really curious as to what was actually going on. In 2010, November 2010, I went to an NLP conference. It's the first one I ever went to. And I met an amazing lady called Olive Hickmott. She was one of the speakers. She is dyslexic herself, and she overcame her dyslexia by understanding that it wasn't enough to just teach students how to visualize words inside their mind, to see the word inside their mind, which is actually the strategy that good spellers use. She recognized that mental imagery is a whole skill that needs to be developed, it needs to be controlled, and it needs to be adapted, so that rather than being hugely creative, having lots going on inside the person's mind, you have to be able to bring it down to a much more reasonable level. Because for words are two-dimensional, they're flat, they shouldn't be moving, and they should be very clear and not too far away inside the mind's eye. When I listened to her talk, I had goosebumps. I literally had the hair standing up on my arms, back of my neck, because I just realized that this was absolutely genius. And most people who are working with those with dyslexia don't have dyslexia themselves, like myself. Therefore, having this insight into what's going on inside the mind of a dyslexic is absolutely crucial to be able to help them. Most people are completely unaware of how differently they think from everybody else. Everyone is thinking differently. We have a term, neurodiversity. It means that everyone's brain is wired differently. So why don't we really have that appreciation in the classroom? Unfortunately, what we have in most systems is a wait to fail system. I speak to so many parents whose children are struggling, and often they're 7, 8 years old, and they're told, no, they're too young to assess. But the parents can see that there's something going on. And I always trust the parents' instinct. The parents know that child. They see them on a regular basis. I've had so many clients whose children were not assessed until they were well into their teens, and sometimes even when they were at university. And once they get the label, there's this like massive aha moment of like, yes, we knew there was something different. They think it's something wrong, but actually we need to look at it as something different. What that means though is for many, many years, that student, that person has been struggling. And often what happens is people think that by having the label, by doing the assessment and getting the label, that inherent in that label is the solution. The reality is that's just the beginning. So if you do have a child who's dyslexic, whether they're a young child in primary school, whether they're in secondary, whether even in third level, or you yourself have signs of dyslexia, or you've even been assessed as dyslexic, the question is, how are you doing your dyslexia? Because everyone's dyslexia presents differently. So it's not a black or white label. It's not like you do or you don't. Some people are very mild. In actual fact, the milder the dyslexia, the less likely you are or that person is to be diagnosed. So often they're struggling. They probably find a way around, but it's a lot of hard work. And that diagnosis then is actually either never given or it's given very, very late. So since 2010, I have been using Olive's technique, and I met another amazing lady, Paula Monti, and Paula is a retired primary school principal, And she was absolutely gutted to find this after she'd retired. So both of us wanted to collaborate, and we created, from that, we extended the whole system into what's called the jump-starting process. And jump-starting is about mental imagery. It's about metacognition, though, more than anything else. It's how do people understand how they are learning, what are they doing that they shouldn't be doing, and what are they not doing that they should be doing. And once you understand that, it's amazing when the penny drops for people that their learning strategy needs to be tweaked, it needs to be amended. They realize actually this is within their power. They don't have to work harder, but they do have to use the right strategies that actually get them the results that they want. So I hope you've enjoyed this little story of how I got here. Since 2010, I also did a master's degree, and I did it in adult learning and development. And my research project was actually with adults who were struggling with spelling. Most of them were too old to have been diagnosed. That didn't exist in school at the time. They just would have been, called stupid or thick or whatever. So these are people who have, for, some of them 4 or 5 decades, struggled with a basic skill like reading and spelling. At the end of 4 weeks, I only saw them 2 hours a week. They practiced 10 to 15 minutes a day, but at the end of that 4 weeks, they could all read and spell, which is an amazing thing. It was so humbling, the experience. And some of them one guy came off his antidepressants. People's lives were literally transformed by being able to do this. And it was really, really simple. Also, in 2012, I met an amazing principal of a primary school in Ireland who recognised that the staff, despite their hard work, despite really good quality phonics programs, they were letting down the visual learners. This was something that they had come to the conclusion they came to themselves. And he was looking for a visual solution. And then he met me. And within a year, we had organised to train his entire staff. I also trained staff from 2 other primary schools. This was 2013. It took a year through all the red tape. And the transformation in the school was incredible. They didn't just use this as an intervention. They actually understood that if the teachers had this process in their toolbox, they could help students right from the beginning, right from the off. As soon as the students started to struggle with phonics, if they could see they were not getting it, then they had another way of teaching the information. I've been to that school now many, many times. I've also taught staff from other schools in that school. And what I absolutely love is I take a back seat when we're doing the demos. The teachers will demonstrate in the classroom how they're using this process, and you can see the confidence and the independence that those learners actually have developed in terms of taking their learning to another level. So if you're interested in booking a free 30-minute discovery call, whether it's for you or your child, then please do check out the link in the bio. And I'd love to talk to you, and I'd love to see how can I help you, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people. I've seen it over and over again, and my favourite thing to hear from a student is, I used to think I was the dumbest kid in the class, and now I know I'm absolutely not. This is a gift that people really struggle to get. They don't understand that actually the way their brains work is just amazing. And it would be lovely to be able to help those students who are really bright, really creative, but struggling within the school system to actually start tapping into their potential and really see what they can achieve. Have a great day.